So Gabe Stockman, welcome to the Share Chair.
Thank you for having me.
And glad you're here. Can we talk about the move to Alt-Ed?
Yeah, sure, if you want.
Day one was good?
Yeah, I finished half a credit there already. Day one, I got a quarter of a credit done, which is half of a class.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then today I got the other half done, so I already technically have a whole class done in 2 days. Basic format is you are given a packet of like 1990s textbook, like it looks like it was just copy pasted, and you're given like a stack of like maybe 20 worksheets to do, and you just run through them. And it's designed so anybody could do it, kind of thing. I have problems with the system more because of how it's designed. It's designed like everybody in there's idiots, and from all the kids I've met out there, they're all pretty smart. Nobody's a mongoloid out there, you know. Everybody's intelligent.
This is made, it's credit recovery, right?
Yeah, it's out there. It's basically made so you can fail an entire trimester of regular high school and still graduate out there.
And then you can still walk and graduate with your class and do all that stuff, right?
You're still graduating from the high school. You get the same diploma.
Yeah.
You still walk with everybody. The only main difference is you can't get into a four-year college right out of high school. I don't know after if you go to a community and get general studies. I don't know if you can. I assume you can.
I assume you can.
But I haven't looked up that information myself.
So what spurred the move for you?
I really hate high school. I love the people. You're probably one of my favorite teachers of all time. You're like top 5. Probably top 3, actually.
Thank you.
I just really don't like how high school's set up. I just find it irritating, I guess. I find a lot of it's useless. And it's not the fault of the teachers, it's more fault of the system. You know, you have to have homework, you have to have work. And it's just the way, if you have 30 people in a room, they're not going to be all taught well. Like, you can be the greatest teacher in the world, and you're not going to teach those kids perfectly. Like, every teacher wants to spend an hour with that kid just teaching them and making them learn, or at least I assume they do, you know. But the way high school's set up, it just goes the complete wrong direction of that, where it's teaching everybody as much as they can efficiently instead of what they should be taught well. You know, it's a factory, not a blacksmith, I guess.
Is there anything that high schools in general can do just a little bit to make it a difference to what you think is the most perfect education?
I guess if you wanted to do without increasing budget spending astronomically, maybe counseling meetings for kids that are struggling. Like, you know, they already do that. They'll call on a kid if he's struggling, but I mean, like, teacher meetings maybe, or like talk to a child if they're doing bad, which if a teacher cares, they probably will, and I assume most teachers care. But I guess if you could have time where a teacher just sits down and talks to each child or young adult about the material and what they're learning, that would help pretty much everybody.
Yeah. Like, what do you do on a daily basis out there? I don't know how long you've been there, but are you independent, or is there teachers there?
There's a teacher there that acts as both hey, I need help with this, and just making sure people are working on things. Me personally, I still do band.
Okay.
I'm still in the band. So I'm there for about an hour. Like, you know, I get there regular time, 7:30, work on whatever I was given the day previous, go to band, come back around about when first lunch is ending, and then start to work on whatever the next packet. And then at the end of the day, you go to you'll switch. There's like an AM and then PM. And I believe there's like 2 for each. I'm doing hand signals even though nobody can see. So there's like 2 AMs and then 2 PMs. So for like the normal PM, it's independent. And then the other one, it's still independent, but it's more focused on like one subject. Like everybody at the end of the day, everybody in my classroom is doing math. Like for the math, they actually have it here too. You can do the classes online. The E2020, I believe, is what they called. Edgenuity, I think, is the actual website. Okay. And it's just a normal class, just set up with like even like informational videos that the math teachers here do now. Like those are still in there. Like it's a company doing it instead of a teacher.
Or just leaving high school, do you know what you're gonna do?
I'm just gonna go to MCC for general education just to get it out of the way. I don't know if I plan to go to a 4-year college. I guess it depends on where I'm at in 2.5 years.
Okay.
But if my dream, I guess, if I could just write for a living, but I assume nobody will ever give me that opportunity.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah. So given or taken or I don't know how
Yeah.
people become writers in so many different ways.
So what do you like to write then?
I like to write a lot of horrific stories, I guess. I don't know if you consider them like horrific, but brooding and omnipresence throughout the stories.
Okay.
I'm currently working on a novel. It's a spin on those really crappy young adult dystopian novels. Like they're not all bad. Like Hunger Games is the big example. That's the Star Wars of that kind of genre.
Yeah.
Basically what it was is I wanted to do a story where a bunch of like teenagers do the standard rebel against the big bad government, but then they fail and just all perish somehow, and what leads them up to that. And there's also themes of sexuality in it. I read this article about the way humans perceive their own sexuality and the way they perceive sex and conversation, where a lot of times naturally males will feel they need to be the dominant in the conversation, and females will feel they need to be submissive. And they found that's more of a societal thing rather than a brainwave thing. And I wanted to examine that by having all the kids in it they have hormone repressants. So basically they stay like children sexually, at least. So girls don't have wider hips or breasts. Males' body hair stays the same, kind of thing. And I just wanted to kind of experiment with that and see what that happened with both people and in conversation, the way they view each other.
Have you spoken to any writers who are writing, or have you ever had an encounter with, or even read books by writers about writing? Like,
I've sent several letters to authors, mostly kind of fanny letters. Much all the responses I've got have been either it's a standard stock letter or just hey, thanks for sending me a letter kind of thing. I haven't read any books on writing. I read a lot of books on film directing, actually, because that interests me in the way people think of, I guess, pre-production is what interests me about film. I read a few, like, odd little stories about, like, specific books. Like, Stephen King wrote, a small paper about his book Cujo, which he says he doesn't remember writing about 75% of it because he was high on cocaine almost the entire time, and how much regretted that. Because he couldn't remember writing any of it.
Who are some of those other authors that you mentioned writing letters to, or just authors who've inspired you?
Cormac McCarthy I wrote a letter to, Thomas Pye-Con, Neil Gaiman. I'm a fan of Neil Gaiman. William Gibson I wrote a letter to like a week ago. I haven't gotten anything from that. I'm crazy about H.P. Lovecraft. I love his Dream Cycle and Cthulhu Mythos stories.
what outside of school and writing, what else makes you tick?
A huge music guy. Especially in the last 3 or 4 years. I think my music library went from about 5 gigs. I think it's now at 67-ish.
Who do we have to listen to that we don't know?
Let's see, I'll throw out some favorite bands, modern day. Right now I'm in love with this band called Mariachi El Bronx that was formed out of a punk band called The Bronx. Out of nowhere, they just released a mariachi album. And it's such an odd, in my mariachi music, it's it sounds like a cheesy, you think of a cheesy restaurant, but it's the trumpets and the way the guitars work with the vocals. Cage the Elephant is a big one. That one's not very small, but they're probably my favorite band right now. They just released an album a month ago, maybe. Archie Fisher, who writes kind of Irish-inspired folk music. I love his stuff. It's all in Japanese letters. But the album's called Yes, We're Open, and the idea is it's the soundtrack for a Japanese shopping center.
Well, yeah.
And you think, yeah, I know, right? It's a fantastic, every single song is aisle 1, aisle 2, check out.
Funny.
It's such a great album, though, and there's something soothing about it.
So now you're a senior with your passion music, writing, or this can be about high school. Do you have any advice for anyone out there that you think you could help, maybe writing a writer who's struggling or a kid who doesn't like the structure is high school just like you don't?
Don't bullshit yourself. Don't act like you're something you're not. And if you're working on something, look for inspiration higher than you are. Like, if you think you're the worst writer in the world, look at the best ones. Like, think of yourself as that while you're writing.
You're a good dude. All right, thanks for being on the Share Chair,
Thanks,
Gabe.
Gabe.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Share Chair. Stay tuned next week for a new one. Also, check us out on Facebook and Twitter for regular updates at The Share Chair. And if you're interested in having a piece of your writing or an experience shared on the podcast, contact Elise McGannon at 203-505 at springlakestudents.org.